Hi everyone, it's Peter from PS Sound, and this is gonna be a special system I'm gonna show to you. You saw this Amarok on the channel not long time ago, but that content was shot sometime in the summer, probably around June, July, and since then a lot has happened to this van. Many people know from all the videos there's a playlist to this project as well. It's going to be in the description, so you can click on it. Plus you will find it at the end of the video. There's going to be a link to it right at the very end of the video too. Then you can see what went into this, but now we have a few more major changes. Something that not many people have done before, and something not many people want or would push us to do. Because to be fair, what we've done this time, it was something that we were not too confident with at the beginning that we could pull it off, but we were really lucky. So let me show you. Well, you could see from previous video the two crazy 18s, right? Yes, that's where we had acoustic elegance before, and yes, for pure rescue they are better, but the owner used to have big bass system, and that's the reason where sometimes it's nice to not to worry too much about the subs, because the acoustic elegance has limitations, which, to be fair, when you get to the level of the limitation of those subs, it's already crazy loud. But some people just want to go further, and then with these subs you don't have to worry that much. These are the old FI version IB318s, and now they are sold under One Audio brand, but there will be some new tasty monsters coming out soon. One Audio is working on some really tasty stuff. So, but the front end, the rear sub is for fun, and it doesn't really contribute too much to the front end experience, because we don't need the rear subs to do much. So those guys who are on our Patreon channel and follow the daily updates, and they see the step-by-step daily progress of these crazy projects, they can see what went into it. Of course, at the end of the video you will see a couple of pictures as well. But what now is poking your eyes? Well, many things, because the whole front end changed almost, except the mid-bass install. Oh, we are not changing that. We changed the installation of the mids, we changed the tweeters, and we have a front sub. A front sub that's in true IB through the firewall, which always sounds super drastic. It's the part where people freak out. Why would you do that? Why would you even ever think about cutting the firewall? And yes, in most cars you can't do that. Just like in our cars we have in the shop, we can't do that, because usually the firewall is structural part of the engine mount rail. In this car though, because this is a pickup van, the cabin is isolated from the chassis rail, and it's sitting on rubber bunks or whatever you call them, and as such the firewall is only a single layer 1 millimeter thin sheet metal, because the chassis rail runs underneath the whole cabin, and that's the structural strong part, and when you have a crash, that's what's taking the hit, not the firewall anymore. So where some of you could see the progress of the mid-bass installation we did more than a year ago, that sheet metal just carries on going where the front sub is, single layer, where we opened the firewall up. Fortunately we had great access to it from both sides. We took the front wheel off, we took the wheel arch out, and then we could see that it was easy, there's nothing in the way. The exhaust is close, and the heat shield of the exhaust is pretty close, but it shouldn't be a problem, because that's the whole point of the heat shield, that it takes the heat up. And the sub has more than 60% cone area for breathing, so it looked promising, and then now I can confirm that according to the measurements it's just silly. It measures all the way down. Stupid. Like from front subs usually you don't get great response below 35 Hertz, or sometimes in some occasions in some cars you don't get much below 45 or 50 Hertz. But front subs still have their place in a sound quality system where mid-bass drivers don't have the authority and they don't play tight and clean. Then front subs can do magic. And I haven't heard a single person ever who tried a front sub and they said that, no, there was no point to do it, I want it out. Nobody has ever said that. There's only benefit to it, either it's in an enclosure or IB, whatever it is. And of course, I have several videos of it on the channel. If you type in to the search function on YouTube that, front subwoofer PS sound, you will see a few videos where I really break it down in great detail. There's one actually, it's titled something like Everything You Need to Know About Front Subwoofer, and that's an hour-long video. You can go through it. You will learn a lot. So this time we wanted to do something different because yes, the mid bass is in true IB, the subs at the back are IB, and of course we have these floor mats. Yeah, funny, huh? Those were created by the owner. Yeah, true IB is special, and it definitely has a very different delivery on bass notes, especially on bass notes, because you don't have compression on the driver. The driver moves freely, and the only control the driver has is the driver's mechanical suspension and electrical properties. And everyone always says that IB bass is just more effortless, it's cleaner, and it certainly is. And in this car, yes, many people can question why we needed a front sub when we had dual 6.5s, and those micro precision 6.5s over here, they could certainly play low. For competition purposes, we could cross them down at like 40 Hertz with a 24 dB slope, and they were confident. They were playing low with authority. They could even play without a sub on acceptable levels until you run out of headroom on the amps or excursion on the drivers. And they play very low. However, there's a point where it's one thing to measure response, and it's another thing to listen to it and what it plays like, what tightness and control it has below a certain frequency range. And even if they could play low in this size cabin, we just didn't get the delivery of that chest kick that we were looking for. Yes, people can say that we have 218s behind us, but it's completely different when you get that kick, dry kick from the front, especially from a smaller driver, not from 18s. So I wasn't pushing this project. The owner who's standing behind me, yeah, you were pushing it. And then actually one day you just mentioned it in the group that, hey, I bought wheel sub. And I'm like, what are you doing with that? I'm like, yeah, we're gonna install it in the Amarok. Okay. And now it's in. It's definitely the first true IB upfront sub in UK and probably in whole Europe. I don't know. Somebody can comment if someone has done it, especially with the 12. And yes, it's beautiful. I can't complain about it. So we created that trim panel over it, just to make sure that it's protected, of course. We close the gap over there around the magnet as well, because that's where you have the little venting holes for the coil, and you don't want anything to fall into that. Of course, we may have to put a bit of rain guard into the pole piece as well, so nothing flies in. We had to modify the mid bass, because before the floor was cut completely differently, and we had to cut that section out of the mid bass install that we had there before, refill it, resand it, retrim it. So yeah, there was a lot of faff with this. It's definitely not an easy task. If anybody wants to take it on, just get ready to find. For us, it was close to 50 hours to sort everything out, to do the installation in and outside. We also had to stiffen up the heat shield behind the driver, because we don't want any buzz, any rattle. So that needed a bit of attention. So a lot of attention goes into something like that. But that's the front sub. Then we have to have a look at the mid-range installation, and I may go to the other side to show that to you, because that's going to be more realistic to sit on the driver's side. Although, yes, it's a right-hand driven car, and not many people understand that, because I don't know the percentage of the world that drives on the right-hand side. But yeah, people always say when they sit in our cars that they are just not used to having the center image, that they have to look to the left, because of course in a left-hand driven car you are looking to the center, to the right. It's another debate. Some people love the center image in front of them, but that's not correct. Center image, oh, now I'm diverting this little explaining video of this project, but center image is always between far left, in the middle of far left and far right. So if this is your far right, how could center be here? In order to get center here, your left would have to be equal distance somewhere here, right? That's when you could have center in front of you, if it's correct. Or if your far left is there, then your far right would have to be somewhere middle of the side window. Equal angle, so wide. So, do you want to put a speaker there somewhere? I don't know. So it's personal preference. If someone wants a incorrect tune and they play with levels and time alignment to get the center image, some sort of center image in front of them, but that's not going to give you really accurate separation and imaging, because then this side of the stage is going to be really squashed, and then that side is going to be big, hollow and empty, and then instruments will be not as well focused. Those instruments which were panned in the mastering to like left center or right center, that will be completely blurred up. There you go, a bit of education. So going back now to the mid and the tweeter. So we shared a teaser picture of these pillars, but not in the car. And not that we had problem with the previous tweeters, they were doing an amazing job. Those ESB 8000 series tweeters, what we were doing with them, especially what settings we had on them, yeah, they did a fantastic job. I wanted to try something different, slightly a bit more unique. And in the last 4 years, some of you know that we have used a fair amount of Mundorf AMTs, and these are air motion tweeters. They are not ribbons. Many people always mix it up. You could see it in Chris's new daily Ben as well. Plus we had quite a few cars. Eddie has it in his Citroen. I have the 40s, the tiny little babies as super tweeters in my S-Class. Then we had it in Steve's Golf, where Steve had the 24-inch IB sub in his Golf. Yeah, I think quite a few cars had these AMTs in the last couple of years, but of course they are difficult to install. They are odd. They look weird, and of course many people can't find these AMTs in this size. When I was in the US a couple of months ago, 2 pairs of the 60s ended up over there. One in San Jose area, in Glenn's car, that's going to be a stunning competition level system. And there's one in Vegas, in Lewis's truck, and they certainly do something special, especially when they go through my hands and they get tuned by me too. Then they just have a whole different level of delivery on the top end. People think that, you know, the magic is in the super high frequency range, but in reality most people don't hear anything about 16-17K. I can advise to everybody to do a test on your home system or in your car, anywhere. Get a signal generator on your phone, and then just keep turning it up and see how far you can hear anything. Some people don't hear anything above 10, 12, 13K already, and that's too bad. But the magic is in the last octave, between 8 and 16K. Well, that's not the last octave, but that's the last octave that still contains a lot of information, that contains many of the instruments. And that's where the real magic happens. I always keep telling people that if you want a high-end performance, and if you're debating where to spend the most money out of your front end, the tweeter, mid, or the mid bass, focus on the tweeter. If you want clarity, if you want detail, micro details and air and stage depth and all that fancy, you know, all those fancy things, it's going to be the tweeter that's going to make the biggest difference. The mid-range has to play a wide range, yes, most of the vocal range, and it is important, yes, it is. Mid-bass, most difficult to install and get it right. Location is key in a car. Like you can see, we had the mid-bass in the door, it's still there. That was the owner's previous system till 2021. Is it what, 21?
Yeah.
Probably that's when we changed to the IB mid-bass, or after that. Yeah, before that he had mid-bass in the door, in all 4 doors actually. And yeah, you can soundproof the whole door, and it wasn't as great, not as clean, and especially for competition, nowhere close. And so yeah, we wanted to try these AMTs in this car as well. Of course, these are the large ones, the 110s, because we also want great dynamics and output capability. The larger the driver, the lower it can play. Although AMTs don't play as low as large format dome tweeters, like the Brexim I have in my S-Class that plays down to, it comes alive at like 600 Hertz. You're not going to cross it there, of course, but they play stupidly low, or like the Accutons. They can play really, really low. These AMTs don't play that low, so you still need a mid-range that can play up to like 2 kilohertz at least. But the delivery on these tweeters above that is sensational, and they don't cost a fortune. That's the thing. Yes, we have used many Accuton tweeters and they are amazing, but who can afford them? That's the crazy thing. And in order to get excellent results, you don't necessarily need Accuton money. Of course, it's difficult when you keep seeing so many of these beautiful systems globally, and you keep looking at Micro Precision Z Studios and Accutons and so many other really expensive speakers, or like Focal Ultima, mega money. But you can still get amazing, you know, jaw-dropping, crying moments in cars. And that's the crazy thing, I haven't even mentioned anything about Eurofinal results. I have to have a video about that, how we did at Eurofinals in April. Eddie's car had the 80s, the one size smaller, which is like probably like that size, around that. And his car was the one that made people cry. At the time, my system was very fresh. It still did well. All of our cars did really well. Everyone brought trophies home. Just to a few words about the Euros, but Eddie's car had many people stepping out of it with tears in their eyes, and they were, you know, waving and screaming to their friends, "Mate, come here, listen to this car, wow." And that's partially because, yeah, we had these amazing tweeters in them. So that's the reason why we wanted to try these in this. Of course, some people heard about the dispersion character of these, which is very, very different to any other tweeter, because these have a very different character when it's mounted vertically or horizontally. This way now, vertically, the dispersion is really wide. It has wide dispersion, so you get a lot of energy going to the side window. Now you could question why we mounted it like that, but to be fair, there was no other way in this car, because we also have to play by the rules. In AMA, we have the 40mm rule, where you look at the little black dots on the windscreen. We can come in 40mm, and the installation cannot block more than that, otherwise you get point deduction. So yeah, there was no other way to mount it horizontally. For pure craziness, I would twist them horizontally, because that way you have great dispersion up and down, but then width-wise it's really narrow. So this tweeter this way now has a really narrow beam playing towards the top and playing down. It's literally laser aligned to your head. If you go too low down like this, then you may really start to lose extension. Or, you know, if it's now aimed down low and if you're high, again, you will lose extension. So this way it has to be right onto your head. But then this way, if you mount it this way, then you get really great dispersion on both sides at the front. Both front passengers get a lot of detail from both sides of the tweeters. There's so many cars where people aim the tweeters selfishly, and it sounds great just on the driver's side, and then it sucks on the passenger side. We had few cars where I had to sit on passenger side, demo those cars, and there was no top end above 8K, and then it's really out of balance. Spectral balance is off, and then it's not enjoyable on passenger side. This way it is, that's for sure. So that's about the tweeters. Oh, one last thing I have to mention about the tweeters. Yes, I mentioned that you can't find these in this size, where you don't have the faceplate. Currently we are the only one, and it looks like we are going to be the only one where you can get these tweeters from, but we will talk about that later in more details. But yeah, if you're interested in these tweeters, then certainly get in contact with us. Drop an email in description. I have an email address, then you can send a message. So we had the Stag MSS Freeze before on the dash. and they were mounted literally on the dash with a simple trim ring. And yes, we always had challenges sorting out the response from that mid-range on the dash, because when we did the front end, I think we had 2 weeks to do the mid bass, the mid and the tweeter in its previous shape, and the mid bass on its own took 6 days between me and Eddie. So we spent 80 hours literally on the mid bass installation in this car. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can check it, as I mentioned. It's in the playlist of this project. It was a lot of work, especially on driver's side, because that's the space we have. We literally don't have anything more to play with. If I have my foot on the accelerator pedal in the middle, then I still have probably a bit more than half an inch, but it's still comfortable. It's not in your way at all. But if that speaker was coming further out, you would be in trouble, and it wouldn't even pass the MOT. So in this side, we really had to play hard to get that mid bass at the bottom. That side was a bit easier, obviously. But then we had a couple of days to do the mid-range, and we wanted to put it on the dashboard. So the dashboard had to come out, soundproof the dashboard, mount it, do the trim ring, all that, do the pillars and everything, and then hope for the best. And in some cars it's just fine. You drop it on the dash and then it does everything that you want from it. In this one, yes, comb filtering was playing in action. It wasn't as close to the windscreen as it is now, because you can see the reflection of the tweeter now, the trim ring of the the mid-range on the windscreen. And that's very, very close now. So we managed to improve something that we had fight with. Still, this car came home with, you know, a second place at the Eurofinals in entry unlimited entry, but the unlimited class, so you had really, really serious systems in that class. How many cars did you have in your class?
I think 16.
It was a busy class, yeah, 15 or 16. And our 2 cars, Mark with the Superb, placed first. This one came second, although you had the same identical scores, and they had to decide who's gonna win depending on what part of the sound score sheet you had better points at. Technically, same scores, both cars finished on the top. To me, both of you are champions, and yes, these cars played beautifully in Salzburg, but we just wanted to push the envelope a bit further. And also, to be fair, your biggest concern with the mid-range installation was the design, wasn't it? And I agree. So before, if you guys wind back, or if I can drop a picture in here, we had a donut-shaped trim ring around the mid-range, and then in this car, everything is, you know, straight-lined and squarey and oblong and whatnot. So circular design didn't quite look right, and you wanted just first a different trim ring. And then I said, you know, that's not the biggest problem in this car. Plus, you always questioned if we could have a better mid-range in the car. Not that necessarily we had problem with the performance, but of course, at the back of everyone's mind, there's always a question that what if we could try something else, right? So many people fall into that trap. And I had to spend a day that I never had with this car. I had to spend a day when we did tests, and then we did measurements with the mid-range in its original previous installation location, a bit further away from the windscreen, and then we 3D printed a mounting temporarily just to drop it in and bring the mid-range closer to the windscreen. We did all those tests to see, and yes, just moving the mid-range closer to the windscreen did that little trick that we needed. And we also tested these mid-range speakers that we shared on our Patreon to the Z Studio 4-inch mids, and these come very, very tight close. Most people wouldn't even notice the difference. There is a slight difference, but at the same time, these mids cost a quarter of the Z Studio, and that's a big difference. I always said it to many people that this Stag MSS3, it plays, you know, you can't really buy anything else up to like 1,000 a pair. To be fair, now these are going up in price. So far we had it for like 450 a pair in UK. Now they are going to be 800. Did I say that to you?
I know.
Yeah, it's crazy. crazy stuff, but even that price makes them worth it. Yeah, many people would buy a Dynaudio Isotar maybe, or a Scan. There are many options, but as I say, you know, for mid-range, yes, you have to install it right, you have to put it to the right location, tune it, blah 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 blah, until it plays the range that you need from it without distortion. That's all you need from a mid-range. Then focus on the tweeter, and then focus on your tune. Yeah, go and get your car tuned. Yes, I always keep saying that, and people hope that I can do remote tuning. I don't personally. I can't do it, and I don't see how it can be done to our standards. Probably that's the keyword, standards. But there are a few people globally, especially in the US now, there are a few guys who do remote tuning. You can find them online easily in Facebook groups as well, and they do pretty good results. So there's definitely a place for remote tuning, because when there's no other option for somebody, they can still do a big jump. You know, if a system can get to a good 75-80%, that last 20% is something that probably remotely you can never reach. Yeah, you want all of it. You want everything out of a system when it gets tuned, and I have to be on site for that, unfortunately. There's no other option, unless when I travel, then I always advertise it. And then, like when I went to the German finals 2 months ago, then I could tune a couple of cars when I was out there. And yeah, that's a great thing, amazing, when we can do magic. So here we are now. I talked a lot, and some people probably spent only 3 minutes scrolling through this video, but that's okay. I really appreciate when people follow our content and they learn a lot from what we do. And of course, this car will be seen in the future, just like in the last few years. You've seen this car on many meetings, competitions, and then people saw your car the first time in Germany a few months ago. Because no, in the summer. Second time, yeah, in the summer you came as well. So we went to 2 rounds to Germany as well. And of course we will be in Salzburg in the middle of April at the finals with this car as well. Yeah, we will have probably the highest number of cars from PS Sound going to Salzburg next April. And everyone is welcome to get a demo. Just get ready to get in the queue, because it's always crazy when we are there. I can't control the crowd. Sometimes we have like 10-15 people around the cars, and I'm like, okay, so who's next? How do we decide? But that's great. You know, everyone wants to experience some magic, and everyone has different take on how to design and tune a system. So far, yes, it looks like many people like the way we do things, and seem to do well in competition too, but that's a different story. Just because somebody wins in competition, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. It can still be a system with a lot of problems. But of course, many people like to justify their winning by showing big trophies. So that's that. But that's where I always appreciate when we can give demos to people, and that's why we have a meeting like tomorrow as well. Although I don't know when you will know. You will see this video later than our meeting, where we have regular meetings in Brighton, in UK, on the South Shore. And yeah, if you follow PS Sound Facebook page, I also share always on Instagram as well in story when we have meetings coming up. Like in the last half year, we had meetings almost every 2 months or something like that. We had quite a few this year, and we will try to organize a few meetings at the beginning of next year too. And yeah, we will see you guys on the next meetings. So I'm going to finish this video here. Check out description, as I mentioned. There's a playlist to this build, our contact details, as well as a link to our Patreon channel, where you can learn hell of a lot. Now Patreon, after 3 years, has just so much content. It's fucking insane. If somebody wants to learn about sound quality and just have daily great entertainment when we can share daily updates from our projects, there's never a boring moment on that channel. And there are so many really valuable, you know, videos, weekly topics, RT evaluations, all sorts of stuff. It's worth to check it out. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it here, guys. Feel free to share it, comment on the video as always. You can share information between each of you who follow the channel, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.
Thank